Wow, and it sounds so nice. Hip hop, you the love of my life. I'm about to take you to the top. Wow, hip hop, to the top, to the top.
So one of my favorite joints of all time, no doubt 100,000%. Babe Ruth, the Mexican, either released since 1972 or 1973. And I didn't know at the time that it was gonna become a staple in hip hop. You know, the B-boys, the B-girls in the Bronx, and then, you know, beyond that globally, really took that record. And, you know, ultimately in the 80s, it became part of the Ultimate Breaks and Beats compilations, wound up getting sampled by a ton of hip hop producers. But, you know, it was innocent when I was listening to it as a 6, 7-year-old. My sister was into like early jazzy, soulful disco. And the record just sonically had a depth to it that it's kind of hard to explain because I didn't really know how to articulate music at that stage. And thinking back on it, it's hard to like articulate now. But the song just meant something, it had a soul. Another track that comes to mind that, wow man, this brings me back to basketball, brings me back to sneakers. 1980, the Treacherous 3 released a song on Enjoy Records called The Body Rock. You know, at that point, for what I was hearing, most of rhyming was pretty simple, very like motivated to move the crowd, you know, party rhymes. And not that the Treacherous 3 weren't adept at doing that as well, but they were lyrical. Like to me, like they're so far ahead of the curve, doing compound rhymes, doing alliteration, you know, Special K was like, I'm not in the place by accident, cause I've been sent to represent the magnificent, intelligent. That's why I'm on the mic with this statement that the party's content is excitement. Feel confident, I'm a resident, and I'm a resident of this establishment and of this department that got a document for every red cent that they spent to help pay the rent for this announcement. I mean, that's 1980. Think about how complex of a rhyme that is. And you know, when we get to G-Rap and we get to Kool Keith and Rakim, and you know, we get complex rhymes, but you know, that's like years later. So the Treacherous 3 were way ahead of the curve, and for some reason, you know, as a 13, 14-year-old, it just spoke to me. But if there was one song to really like point at as like an anthem of the entire decade that me and Stretch were on the radio, it would be OC Time's Up. So much so that as a director of our documentary, which eventually aired on Showtime and was licensed to Netflix, OC Time's Up is in the intro title sequence of the film. And you know, Buck Wild was a producer on it, you know, but OC spoke exactly what we were all aspiring to. You know, sure, he got technical with, you lack the minerals and vitamins, irons and the niacin. But when he said, I'd rather be broken, have a whole lot of respect, it's the principle of it. I get a rush when I bust some dope rhymes I wrote. That maybe somebody will quote. Like, that's my existence to this day. So thank you to OC, you know, and tremendous record. I can't talk about music without mentioning the one and only, you know, perhaps if the universe had to decide on a voice to represent it, it would be Stevie Wonder. The brother could could sing in 8 octaves. You know, he's been recording since the early 60s. You know, so how many decades is that? 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020. That's 7 decades that he's been a part of crushing. You understand what that means? Like 7 decades of like hits and affecting people, making people cry. So again, naturally with me and Stretch's album, No Request, when we were deciding on what songs we would interpret, If You Really Love Me, which is one of my favorites by Stevie, was a no-brainer, you know, and we enlisted Maimouna Youssef, AKA Mumu Fresh, who's from the DMV, to be on a mic. She sung with The Roots and Common, and she's a solo artist and phenomenal, you know, strong woman, strong spirit, and she crushed it. And I feel like, you know, our version is its own entity. You know, sure, we emulate Stevie, but we can't be Stevie, and we're not trying to be Stevie. And you know, it felt nice to do an album and have something Stevie related to it because he's meant a lot in my life. Eddie Palmieri, 10-time Grammy Award winner, National Endowment of the Arts, jazz master, Latin music legend, but also an activist. Eddie Palmieri, in the early 70s, did a concert at Sing Sing for the incarcerated population there. And Eddie was so ahead of the curve in terms of, sure, he was making Latin music in the 1950s and 1960s, but in the 70s, he enlisted some players that were in Aretha Franklin's band and really created this like new genre of Latin meets funk, meets jazz, meets soul, which had been dibbled and dabbled in prior, but the way that Eddie did it was insane. And he did it at Sing Sing for one of his biggest records, Azúcar. And they called it Azúcar Part 2, Part 3. And, you know, as a DJ, if I play Azúcar live at Sing Sing, that's like the record to get the B-boys out, the B-girls out, but also the salseros out. And it just crosses so many boundaries. And that's what me and Stretch's album is about, you know? Bridging people together, not building walls to divide. And, you know, I'm still pinching myself that Eddie Palmieri would sign me and Stretch for our debut album. And that's my life in 5.
But check it out, yeah. Wow, that it sounds so nice. Hip hop, you the love of my life. I'm about to take you to the top. Wow, hip hop, to the top.